All right, how's it going? My name's IPA Fan. This is Church of Chug. Today we are chugging a Japanese beer, and we are talking homebrewing. To my right, your left, Jay Hump.
Craft Witness here. I will be chugging this Japanese beer, Asahi. It's a Japanese number rated beer, and it's a product of Italy. Plot twist.
Nice. Henry.
Popped up Synctimist here. I'll be drinking a Sapporo, and I just actually realized that this is actually a product of Vietnam, but it's actually a Japanese beer.
Nice.
Wow.
Rich.
Hey, Drunken Monkey here. I'm going to be drinking Sapporo premium beer. And same thing, I'm just noticing that this was actually bottled in La Crosse, Wisconsin. So
Fair enough.
The authentic stuff.
yeah.
Al.
Bill over here, and I'm going to be doing Sapporo Black, which is also from Vietnam.
Ricky.
What's up, guys? Ricky with the Good Beer here. I am going to be drinking a red rice ale from Hitachi no Nest Kyuchi Brewing out of Japan.
Nice. I've
Very
actually
nice.
heard about that. Clarissa.
Happy Brew Hot. I'm going to be chugging not a Japanese beer, unfortunately. It's a guava blonde from Revolt in California.
Nice. And
Let me
I
pretend it's Japanese.
am IPA fan. Like I said before, I'm doing Sapporo. And for those of you who just realized, yes, we actually have Happy Bruja back on today. Special episode because she is our homebrewer extraordinaire who's going to be giving us some information education on homebrewing. So with that being said, Al, you are center square today. Rich, go ahead before we start.
I was just going to add that this is a product of Canada, apparently. It was brewed in Wisconsin, but it's a product of Canada.
I don't know what just happened, but that's what I get for moving my mouse. Al,
All right,
go
it is
ahead.
recording.
Center square.
All right, everybody, glasses up.
Not looking forward to this, bro.
Yeah,
No,
me,
not at all.
19 ounces. Cheers, everybody.
19.
Count of three. 1, 2, 3. Cheers.
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 How is that still cold after 30 minutes?
It's been too
Yep.
long.
Do you miss that? Bruja, do you miss that?
No.
It's like I'm leaving. The hell with this.
just when I got good at it again. I mean, like I got bad again.
This is so malty. So malty.
Agreed.
Whiskey malt. Not good.
Yeah.
Get that out of the way.
Oh, shoot.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. That has got to be one of our worst chugs that everybody actually had a decent beer and we still hated life doing it.
Mhm.
But you had to pack it on top of those schmoojie style shakes.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
I think I would have enjoyed drinking that beer. I didn't enjoy chugging it, but
Yeah.
drinking it, I think I would have liked.
Yeah,
I think,
agreed.
I think if my
this was not
stomach
bad.
wasn't
Just
full
drinking
of
it.
like 3 other beers, I would have enjoyed chugging it. That's me personally. Just anytime you have a thick ass beer beforehand, you ain't gonna enjoy what comes after.
It's like having a meal.
Oh yeah.
You chug, pack it on top of this.
So with that being said, as we crack into our cruising beers, the topic, of course, is home brewing. And of course, we're going to be getting into what Clarissa wants to share about home brewing and whatnot. But before we get into that, I just want to get an idea. How many of us have actually tried home brewing? And I don't mean like all in depth, but actually given it a shot. Get a show of hands.
Yep.
Calm down, Henry. You got to put your hand way up, bro.
Can we like?
Don't be modest.
All right, cool, fair enough. So at least what is it, 5 of us, 5 out of 7? That's a decent amount. I think it goes back to the fact that, like, you know, we love it so much, we love beer so much that we're like, hey, let me see if I can do it, you know?
I'm about to learn some shit today.
Yeah.
To me, it seemed so overwhelming. Like it I don't know. It just seemed overwhelming. I've seen a couple people do it. I have a couple friends that do it, and it just seemed like I was like, I'm not even close to knowing enough information
have the
about it.
time,
It just
huh?
seems overwhelming. Yeah.
It seems more science and math. If you don't know that, you're,
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather let you all do that stuff because I just got that generic Mr. Beer bucket, whatever the hell it was called. Yeah, exactly. It's like, just leave it there and do its thing. But no, I kept opening the thing and, letting the air in, and so I fucked it up. So yeah, it was bad.
Well, I did see Proper Josh did an episode where like his brother-in-law and his sister did a beer, and like the company, it's posted on his page, but like I guess the company, they give you like a whole pack. It has everything in there, and it gives you directions like add this, look for this temperature, mix this, do that, and
Right.
it's step by step, and it breaks down how to make a beer. So
That's the beginning. I like that.
In my opinion, there's 3 types of homebrewing, which doesn't mean a lot because I haven't done a lot of homebrewing. But my thing is, it's easy bake oven homebrewing, which is like Mr. Beer type shit.
Yeah.
No offense, all.
Easy bake
And
oven.
then there's extract brewing, which is like Betty Crocker type brewing. And then there's all grain brewing, which is like the actual fucking home brewing. I personally have only done Betty Crocker extract brewing, which is it's nothing to laugh at, but at the same time, it's not all grain, like getting all the fucking nitty gritty type shit in there. So what do you guys who've actually gotten into the all grain think about that description? You're way off.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it like that. I mean, like extract brewing is still, you can still get really great brews out of that. I have a buddy who does that, and honestly, it's like one of the best saisons I've ever had. But I think you can also do like a mixture of having extract and grain, and it's going to be like a partial mash, which is pretty cool too. Like it's an easy way to, it's like that next step forward once you're ready to go all grain.
Nice.
That's as far as I've gotten with mine. I've done partial mash, where you still gotta like get some extract in there, but I've never done a full grain brewing myself. Next step, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So Bruja, could you, in the most basic way, break down what home brewing actually is?
Making tea.
Really?
Very true.
Yeah,
I'm all in.
Like what I do, so I do it in a bag just because I don't have like all the equipment to get the grain out. So I mean, like to do it one step further. So in order to get the grain, you have to get the grain, and you have to heat it up to like a certain temperature in order to get all the extract all the sugars out of it. So that's what's going to make what's called the wort. So then you're going to get that, you're going to boil it down, and when it boils, that's when you like start getting all put together, putting in the hops and everything, and then you put in the yeast at the very end, and so that's going to turn that sugar water, that wort, into the beer. What was the question?
Yeah, that's it.
No, you answered it. Yeah.
What's home brewing?
Oh yeah, so I do it in a bag because I don't have the capability to get the grain out of my stuff with like a false bottom. So if I don't have that false bottom or like something in there to separate the grain from that wort, it's gonna fudge everything up. So essentially what I'm doing is making tea. So I put the bag in the water to get all that sugar out.
So I would say that's a special bag, and if it is, what is it? Is it referred to? Is it called like a tea bag, or is it a
That's
wort
a
bag?
brew in a bag.
Oh, so it's just specific to the beer tree, or you can use a like coffee like net or something and wrap it up that way, or
It's usually a lot of grain. So I use like 10, 13 pounds. So it's like a pretty massive bag in there, or even a basket in some cases too.
Or you're talking more towards the mesh bags, right?
Yeah, they're usually mesh. I think some of them are like muslin kind of texture.
I just want to make sure that people aren't listening to this and they're like, cool, I could get a plastic bag and throw that.
Oh yeah.
Put a couple
yeah, that's
holes in
why I
there
made
and I'm good.
the comment about the coffee filter. If you could just bundle up in there, or whatever. But yeah.
Have you found like using like a mesh bag versus like a, because I know some of the systems are set up for like you have like a kind of like a basket, like I know most people have seen like when they do like a crab broil or like a lobster broil, they have like a big basket that comes out. Essentially, it's kind of the same thing with smaller holes, obviously.
Yeah.
But have you found any difference in using one or the other?
The only difference is that the basket lasts longer. So I go through bags like crazy just because, I do squeeze. There's like a big debate. Do you squeeze the bag or you don't squeeze the bag?
Yeah.
But I squeeze the heck out of it because I want all that last bit of work. So that puts a lot of strain on the bag. And, it's like you squeeze it enough, eventually it's going to tear and wear. And but I did transition over to a basket recently, and it's made life so much easier. Although it gets really freaking heavy, like trying to pull that out by myself.
So I'm curious. I've seen you brew, and I've seen you being part of the IE Brew Witches. Do you prefer to brew on your own because you like control all aspects of it, or you prefer having people there?
At home, I prefer doing it alone. It's just like a really nice time to de-stress, I guess. It's like my own time. But it's like when I'm at the brewery, that's fun to be around other people, just talking, because that's an even longer process, where at home it's just like 4 hours.
I got you. Drunken Monkey?
Yeah, so I like one of the things that I think is probably a question that most people have if they've never done it, and it's definitely a question that I have, is how expensive is it to start, like to get the things that you need to try to brew your own thing, the right pot, the right filter or bag, or like whatever, like the hops and the whatever you need to try to brew a beer on your own. How expensive is it to start?
You can actually start with a lot of stuff that you have at home. So, I mean, if you're going to do it with like 1 gallon, you can just do it with the pot that you have at home. And there's companies like Northern Brewer or the one you were mentioning with Proper Josh, they sell kits. So you can start like pretty easily with extract. I don't know the pricing for like the cheapest side. I know for like mine, I just brewed a Saison and it came out to like $37. That was just like the grain, the hops, the yeast. But I wanted to go all in, so I spent like quite a bit of money trying to get all that equipment, when I mean it wasn't necessary at the time because I was not ready for it. But but yeah, you can it's easy to just with the stuff you have at home, and you can even like ferment in probably a growler that you guys have, and just get a little tiny airlock. There's those like $5 maybe.
Okay.
For those of you guys who don't know but are interested, a lot of home brewing places are like, they have their own little kits ready to go. And not just that, but most of them are like incredibly awesome people who are like, awesome, you're into it? Cool. How much do you know? How much can I walk you through? And they actually have like actual beer there ready for you to taste that they home brewed, and they can help you make that type of beer or whatever it is. So definitely check it out if you even have some interest in it. Sorry, Ricky, I cut you off. Go ahead, man.
I was just gonna ask what how big of a system do you have right now? Like, what are you capable of brewing? Like, if we had to go to your house right now and brew something,
tomorrow,
how much can we brew?
I only do 5 gallons at a time. So my actual pot, like what you mentioned, is like a lobster kettle kind of looking thing, is 7.5. Oh no, it's 7 gallons. So it don't really fit much water in there. But the way that I do things, I'm not doing mash with the full like 7 gallons of water in there. So you have to start with a lot more water because it's going to boil down.
Right. So could you give us like a rundown, somebody who doesn't know, about how long more or less some steps are going to take? Like, is it something I could do in 30 minutes? Obviously not, but
yeah. So I usually start the day before, but that's when I go and get the grain. That's just a quick shop down to actually Revolt. They're a homebrew shop here in Montclair. And like, if I have questions there, if I'm not sure of how something's going to work, they definitely help me out and try to get me that recipe that's going to have like quality beer. And then heating up the water to get it to your mash temp. So mash is, like I said, where you're going to extract the sugar. It's going to take another hour, and you're going to mash for between 60 to 90 minutes. There's also a huge debate on that, but I do 60 minutes just for time's sake. And then, so when I'm squeezing the grain or the bag out of that grain, the grain bag, there we go. That probably takes me like 30 minutes because it's just so hot and so heavy. And then you're going to boil for another hour or so. And then you have to cool that thing down. So it's going to go from boiling temperature 212 down to whatever your pitching temperature. So pitching is when you're going to add the yeast in, and that should be around like 68, 70 degrees. And that should be done fairly quickly. So maybe like 20 minutes tops. And then just let it sit in your fermenter and wait it out for 2 weeks or so.
So the oh, go ahead, Al, sorry.
I always just being polite, raise my hand. But like myself, an absolute beginner, never made beer before. I have the equipment. Is there a beer that's easier to make so that way I can make it successfully, feel like I made beer and be happy with it? Or are all beers equally difficult or not difficult to make? What beer would you say to me to make first to make me feel like, okay, I did a good job?
Probably an amber. So I haven't made an amber, but everybody, because like I said, I jumped all in and went straight to IPA, which was a big mistake. It was a dud. But everybody says to start with like an amber, something that's going to be like malty and hoppy, like you can mix and match. So I think like the first brew day like lesson I did with the Brew Witches was an amber ale also, and we did a partial mash on that one, and it came out really good. I mean, we made a tincture so with hatch chilies so we could add a little bit of heat to the growlers when it was ready.
So when you said mix and match, what are you referring to? Like hops or malts or something like that? Or?
Did I say mix and match?
I kind of think I heard you say mix and match. Is that me or did anybody else hear that?
I don't know.
Think so.
I thought I heard mix and match somewhere.
Let's just go with she didn't say it. Let's move on.
Yeah. I mean, like you can use
I heard that.
or to your liking. For amber, like an amber, you're gonna want to use like specific types of malts to get like that little bit of roastiness, that little bit of nuttiness in there.
Rich, you were gonna say something?
Oh, I was just gonna say, it sounds like from your description of kind of how you go along the process, it sounds like the most important things you need to pay attention to is temperature and time.
Yes.
So with those two things in mind, how easy is it to screw it up? Do you think, like especially for like a first time brewer, like if I'm trying to start something at home, like how easy is it for me to absolutely just, mess up the whole process and ruin what I tried to do?
It's actually, I'm going to say it's pretty difficult. I think like a lot of the time it's that yeast is probably going to eat up a lot of your mistake. I mean, getting your mash temperature too high can lead to some off flavors, or too low. You might not extract as many sugars as you want, but it's, either way, it's going to come out with beer. Like,
okay.
What I tell people is if you don't make a mistake during your brew day, then you didn't do it right.
Right. It's the only way you're going to learn.
Yeah.
So, in reference to brewing, I mean, obviously you've done other things other than beer, because I think about 3 months ago, you were trying to do a seltzer.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So let me ask about that, because, brewing is brewing. And apparently like that, I followed that video and it kind of like went somewhere.
Yeah, I dumped it down the drain.
Yes.
I
just wanted to allude to it. So what happened there that made it, like, was it hard to do? Was that a different way of brewing that you didn't, understand?
Yeah, so the sugar doesn't have enough nutrients in it to feed the yeast. So you need to be adding yeast nutrient to it in the fermenter, like for a couple of days. But I had bought a new yeast. It's called Lutra. It's like a Kveik yeast, so it like eats through it really fast. But they also have a yeast nutrient for it, so it's like a one and done, as opposed to adding yeast or nutrient like at the boil, day 1, day 2, so on and so forth. So anyway, I didn't have that nutrient, and I think what happened is the yeast got stressed out, and the flavors it produced were just awful. I mean, it smelled like rhino farts in my garage for
I
like
remember you had said something.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
All right. So with that being said, that now you know what you're supposed to get. Are you going to retry to do another seltzer, brew another seltzer?
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely try to do it again. So the Kavekis, it does really well at high temperatures. So I'm in California, Southern California now that it's starting to get hot out. My garage is like a nice 95 degrees or something like that. So I'm gonna try it again because it's just a quick boil. It's like a boil for 10 minutes, just the sugar and the water.
Wow.
And that's it.
Ricky?
Yeah, so like I was gonna ask about this because you brought it up. One of my biggest problems was maintaining the boil, all that stuff, no problem. The maintaining of the temperatures for those 2 weeks, because New York is like 60 degrees one day and 105 the next day. And I know you guys are on the West Coast, and I know you guys get hot too. Do you have a specific place where you put your fermenters, or do you have like fridges, or how do you maintain your fermenters at a constant or somewhere near a constant?
I do struggle with temperature control. So usually, like what you guys, when it's fermenting, what you want to do is you want to keep it at whatever temperature that yeast wants for the 2 weeks straight. And I can't do that. So I actually use my downstairs shower, and I put like that giant blue tub, where you put like kegs in for a keg party. One of those, depends on if I need the yeast or the temperature to be colder, I'll stick ice in there, stick some water in there, throw some towels on top of it and insulation around it. And if it's heat that it needs, then I'll open up the insulation and stick a little space heater in there until it reaches that like a little bit above the temperature that I need. So that way it stays kind of consistent for at least a day. And then I'll just do that.
So for somebody that's doing a little bit more than the novice brewing, would it be recommended to like maybe invest in something that's temperature controlled?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's like a huge thing for people. You should definitely do temperature control before you go in and buy all that like special equipment, which can be done with just like one of those little dorm fridges. You can just easily convert that to have like a temperature probe and get a space heater thing in there. And so it's from like Offer Up or something. You can get one for like $20. I know I haven't done it just because I'm lazy, but I recommend for other people to get temperature control first.
So I've done a couple home brews, and I feel like this is a really basic question, but I can't explain how much it frustrates me. How do you get it from the boil down to its pitching temperature so quickly? Because I know one time I went shopping for like, I don't know how many gallons of ice, and I was like losing my mind trying to get it down, and it just wouldn't get down, So how do you guys do it?
I use a wort chiller, so it's like a big copper coil. Okay. And so, I mean, it is kind of a pain with the groundwater being just not that much cooler than the temperature outside. But I make it through. Sometimes I'll stick it in the carboy, which is like the fermentation vessel, stick it in that blue bucket and fill that with ice and just let it chill. Yeah. But as once it's below like 100, that's when I do it. Not what?
Chilling the pitch, is that what you called it?
No. Chilling the wort and pitching the yeast.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So you got to get the wort down to a certain temperature before you pitch the yeast, because if the temperature is too high, the yeast is just going to die and you're just going to get left with sugary water. So we don't have too much time left. Ricky, go ahead.
So I was going to ask, and I think me and Henry had talked about this during the week, and I think Monkey was with us too. As a brewer, as a home brewer, are you part of any like homebrew societies, and if you are, like, do you recommend like a new person or somebody that wants to get into it, like join a homebrew society or like a homebrew group, or you know what I'm saying, like in your area, just so that you can learn and grab stuff from there? Like, are those, is that something that you would recommend?
Yeah, I am part of a homebrew club here in California. It's the SoCal Cerveceros. They're one of like the biggest Latinx homebrew clubs in the US, actually. And I highly recommend joining one, if not that one. I mean, they have been so helpful. We have like a Slack channel. So we, like, anytime I have a question, like if I'm struggling during brew day, I'll just shoot a message and I get instant responses. I've learned so much like from them, just not just when I'm struggling, but in general during our meetings. They also have like competitions and like club meetings at breweries and stuff. It's really cool.
Awesome.
And are they friendly to novice and like, I think one of the biggest things that I see is like novice brewers or like people that are just starting off are like kind of intimidated by like some of the people in the clubs that are like, been brewing forever and like, what do you mean you're bringing your little, single malt, single mash IPA that you made to our brewery or club and stuff? You know what I'm saying? Are they pretty like, friendly to everybody, I guess, like novice and experts alike?
Yeah, oh yeah, they will definitely walk you through everything you need. Even, I mean, we have like new people joining, like I haven't started yet, but I'm planning on it. And they'll tell them like what kind of equipment they need, where they can get it from, and like, they'll explain all the nitty gritty sciences behind everything. It's pretty awesome.
So one question I want to ask, what the hell Slack? No, I'm kidding. No, I don't know, but I'm not going to get into that. My question was actually, and I'm sure you can probably, everyone, if you've homebrewed, you've probably run into this. How painful, and does it ever get less painful to just pour out a brew? Because you're like, this shit, it was just shit. You just got to drain for it.
I mean,
calm down, Henry. Henry's looking at me like, I've never done that. What are you talking about? I was going to say, dude.
It depends on how much your equipment costs, what you spend into it, dude. So it hurts. Sometimes it doesn't, just depends.
Fair enough. Brewha, ever get easier?
Yeah, I would say it doesn't hurt. I get more mad at myself. I'm just like literally X amount of dollars down the drain, or like I start playing it back. What could I have done better? What could I have changed? And it just sucks. But it never gets better.
But is there something that you make all the time, constantly? Like this was great, I'm going to do it again?
Actually, I haven't brewed the same thing twice yet, but I am going to rebrew a Pilsner I did last year because that was amazing.
Brewha, you said you go back and you think about it. I'll get to you, Rich, just a second. I want to actually say this and stress this to anybody who's going to get into homebrewing, which is probably the most important thing that I learned. Document everything you do, because that will prevent you from ever making the same mistake or making the same amazing beer again. Am I wrong, anybody?
Oh no, you are absolutely right. I have like a bunch of journals. Like I take notes on everything: mash temperature, mash time, beginning mash temp, like what the temperature was when I pitched it, how long it took to cool down. I mean, I'm not a note taker, but for this, like you have to take notes.
Yeah, that's the one advice I'll give, because I by no means am an awesome brewer. But anyways, Rich, sorry.
No, yeah, I'll second that. I mean, like I've never homebrewed, but I have a very close friend that brews all the time, and he takes copious notes. Like he takes insane notes on every single thing that he did along the process, so that if he does want to go back to that beer, he knows exactly what he did, what worked, what didn't work, or whatever along the process. But the thing I noticed is with that same friend is it appears and anybody that's brewed before, it appears that a lot of times people don't go back to something that they brewed before. Like they brew something and they're like, okay, I did that next, and they brew something else. Like I had this same friend, he brewed a POG and it was absolutely amazing. It was so good, and he's like, yeah, I'm not making that anymore. And I'm like, dude, why not? It was so good. And he's like, oh, I've moved on. I'm doing something else. I'm doing a red ale. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And I'm like, come on. I was like, that was so good. But like people that have brewed, or Clarissa, specifically, like, why is that? Why is it like that a lot of times? Is it because you want to kind of, expand and prove that you can do other things? Why is it that you don't go back to something that you did really well?
Yeah, I can't speak for them, but for me, I got into it actually as a creative outlet. Like I always get a bunch of hobbies because I just need something to do all the time. And this gives me a lot of control over what's it taste like, what's it look like, what's it feel like, And so that's why I never go back. It's because I can make something different. And it gives me that opportunity to create that recipe, to make something new. And it's just, yeah, it's art. I mean, most people don't draw the same thing twice, right?
Yeah.
True. That's like,
And that's what it seemed like. It seemed like it seemed like a challenge. Like, you know, like, hey, I've already completed that. Move on to the next challenge. So that's what it seemed like. But I keep bugging him. I keep poking him like, dude, you need to make this again. You need to make this again. He made an awesome porter. He made an awesome POG. He made an awesome amber. And I'm like, dude, you need to make those again. He's like, no, I'm working on this. And I'm like, oh God.
So can I ask one more thing? What's your first off, what's your favorite type of homebrew that you've done or you're thinking of doing? And I know you've actually moved on and done some big scale. Can you just give us like a really quick like difference from what in your garage to like making some big scale stuff?
Yeah, like a minute before we cut you off. Sorry, Bruja.
I'll try to do it fast. My favorite was a Pilsner, which is the absolute hardest like style to make, just trying to maintain that temperature control again during fermentation. It's supposed to be super cold. Big scale, it was hard. Oh my gosh. So I've only brewed one time that was not in a group, and it was the absolute hardest thing I've ever done, as I could not get that mash to stir. I could not stir that grain. So I think you guys, I don't know if you saw the pictures, my arms were just covered in bruises from it. I mean, in technicalities, like it wasn't all that different. It was just hard.
I got you. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, next week, some of the crazy people on here are doing a 40-ounce chug. So get ready for that. You'll see a lot of happy people smiling from ear to
Bruja,
ear.
you can come back for that.
I heard there's
come back.
I heard there's gonna be a Mickey.
Bruja, what's the next brew that you're making?
That is on hold right now. My semester is really hard this time around. So.
Okay.